Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Starseeds and Lightworkers Collective. My name is Crystal, and here we are in Quantum Portals, and we have another amazing evening for you tonight. Tonight, we will be speaking with our favorite, true and dear, Ms. Maurene Morgan, and she'll be talking to us about the Marian Apparitions. And very, very interesting topic that, from what I hear, can really send you down a rabbit hole. It's looking at obviously UFO phenomena, alien phenomena, but from a very different perspective. So we're going to have Maureen, who is going to talk to us about that tonight. Before we begin, though, I know that there are some of you who have asked about why they can't see the chat after the show is over. I just wanted to explain that because of the way YouTube is made, you can only see chat functions and go back if you're on an actual PC, like either on a laptop or a desktop computer. Chat functions are not really functional after the fact on a cell phone. So for those of you who have been saying that they are not able to see any of the comments and chats, try going on a desktop computer or your laptop, and you should have no problem. But if you do, just let me know, and I'll try to guide you through it. As well, tomorrow we have we have a discussion group tomorrow with Miss Karen Holton. She's going to be discussing her book, and it'll be a chance for members to have interactive meeting with Karen and to ask questions and to share their experiences. So make sure that you're registered on the Meetup website, because I will be sending out the meeting details and information tomorrow, just before the meeting. And I'll be sending it to people who are registered. So please make sure that you're registered on Meetup under the meeting tomorrow. It starts at 7 p.m., not the usual 8 p.m., but at 7 p.m. So that's our discussion group tomorrow. So without further ado, I just want to welcome back Ms. Maurene Morgan. She has been with us before, and she always has an amazing presentation. Her and I are always sort of bouncing off each other. And she's going to be talking tonight about the Marian Apparitions, and she's done a lot of research. So Maureen, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Again, as I was saying to you earlier, when I dived into this topic probably 3 months or so ago, I had no idea I was going full bore down the rabbit hole. I mean, a very dark, twisted rabbit hole. And it's like, I'm still down there somewhere.
Yeah,
I
you
don't know
are.
if I'm ever going to come up again.
Okay, well, that's great.
It,
So,
it's a much bigger topic than I could ever have imagined.
okay. So,
Not not being Catholic or a
yeah,
Mariologist.
yeah, but you know what though? It's interesting because a lot of times when we're looking at the phenomena of UFOs or alien contact, a lot of people have drawn conclusions between what they've
Mm-hmm.
seen in the Bible and what they
Yeah.
have, seen in real life. And
Mhm.
I know that some people have gone back to the Bible and sort of reimagined and sort of figured, in a more sort of technological context, what could
Yeah.
actually be going on. Because I know that when I was a child, I wasn't super religious or anything, but my mom tried to sort of expose me to, Christianity, and we used to read the
Mhm.
Bible at night, my mother and I. And I remember many times sort of, reading a passage, and I just remember saying, Ma, why is there all this technology? Why is this machine and Leviathan and going under the water and gems and metal and all that kind of stuff? And I just thought, I don't know. Even at that age, I was kind of like, there's something kind of very weird here. So I think that, and it's not to in any way disregard the spiritual context of the Bible or any other
Mhm.
spiritual teachings, because it's not just a Christian religion. It's like many other different teachings out there in Islam and all that. I think last time we talked about the Archangel Gabriel who came to see Muhammad and took him on a ship and took him around the planet. So that's but like I mean there are many other different teachings and spiritual understandings out there that, if you really look at it, can be kind of maybe they're talking about stuff that's very different. But tonight we're going to be focused mostly on the Christian perspective. But before we do that, did you want to just sort of introduce yourself and let us give us a little bit more background for those of us who are just coming in new and haven't met you before?
Okay. Well, I suppose well, I will be getting into some of this in my talk. But
Mm-hmm.
I have no. I am not Catholic and have very little religious training behind me. So for me to get into this topic was, I mean, it was. Uh, I can't tell you how many books I've read, how many podcasts I've listened to, how many scholarly papers that I have read.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I came from the world of UFOs,
Okay.
because I was the Washington Mutual UFO Network state director for 6 years. And it's very nuts and bolts.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also on their experiencer research team, where I spoke to hundreds of people who believed that they had had some kind of close encounter or anomalous experience. I don't know if this is applicable at all, but I am also a small boat circumnavigator. I spent many
Oh.
years out at sea, and I think it's maybe that's given me kind of like this universal perspective on the world. But yeah, so this, because I come from a perspective, a nuts and bolts perspective, this really, it was hard to go through here. I'm go to here because I had to like put that all aside, and I mean put the nuts and bolts world behind me, and just open my mind up to a more spiritual side of this phenomena. So anyway, that's a little background on me.
Okay. Well, that's great. And so that gives you very how should I say, you have a very, very global perspective then. Even the
Well, I would
circumnavigating. Why
like to
not?
think so. I
Yeah.
would like to think so. Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sometimes I wonder, but yeah, I would like to think so. But I think more than anything else is that, having been a MUFON state director,
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good training in the nuts and bolts aspect of the phenomenon.
Okay.
And then, and because of that, as I spent, again, weeks, months researching this, I began to see more and more of the UFO element in it.
Okay.
And, at the end, if people are interested in having me explore this phenomena as a UFO phenomena, particularly in the spring, after I have a chance to work on it, I would be delighted to develop it. But
Oh.
this one, largely because it's because of I suspect a lot of your viewers are not familiar with the topic of Marian apparitions. So I think a lot of this is kind of like giving you some background on what in the world this is and how anomalous it is. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can't believe. And the problem is, I mean, I shouldn't say, the challenge is realizing it's very real.
Okay.
No matter what perspective you come from, this phenomena is real. Much of it has been scientifically investigated, and it's beyond debunking.
Okay.
So
Okay. So let's get started, shall we?
okay.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at I'm just going to sort of get things set up here, and
Mhm.
we are going to be speaking with Maureen about the Marian apparitions. Now, I just want to just make sure I understand this. Just so that we have a bit of a context. This is about Mother Mary.
Yes,
You know what I
what
mean?
is alleged to be Mother Mary? What is
Okay.
perceived to be the Blessed Virgin Mary,
Okay.
Mother of Jesus? That's
Okay.
right.
Marian. Okay, Marian. Okay,
Yeah,
so.
Marian is just the term for all things Mary,
Mhm.
and Mariologists are those people who either study or like worship Mary.
Okay,
And
great.
I've come to learn that that's a distinct subgroup.
Hmm.
I mean, it's yeah, Mariologists are yet a distinct subgroup of people of Christians.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Honestly, I didn't even know that. So I'm learning something new.
I didn't either.
Okay, and a little shout out to Sita Singh,
Mhm.
4642. Thanks. I love Mother Mary's. And I mean, I love Mother Mary too. It's just that I didn't know that there was an actual section related to that. And
Yeah.
also, we have AML Q2Y. Good evening, everyone. Hey, AML, thank you for joining us this evening. So, your presentation is up, Maureen,
Mm.
so go for it.
Okay, so are we already screen
Yep,
sharing?
yep.
Okay. You guys have got it up?
Yep, we have it up.
Okay.
All right.
So anyway, to start with my little narrative, I always have to do a narrative because otherwise I am prone to blathering and pontificating. So I I have to go by a narrative to keep me constrained.
No problem.
Okay, so if you had asked me 2 years ago what I thought about Marian apparitions, the alleged supernatural appearances of the Blessed Virgin Mary, or BVM for short,
Okay.
that are often associated with miracles, messages having religious significance, and apocalyptic warnings for a sinful humanity, I would have responded with a shoot from the hip response, dismissing it as nothing more than delusions of the religiously gullible.
Okay.
After all, for 6 years, I had been the Washington Mutual UFO Network state director, an organization steeped in a culture of no nonsense, nuts and bolts UFO investigations. Moreover, like many people who are not raised Roman Catholic and having relatively little religious background, I was only vaguely aware of a few of the most sensational appearances, such as, now, again, I am not seeing me on.
Yeah. Did you want to? Are you on the first slide? Because I just see the.
I am on the first slide. I need to go to the next slide.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not seeing. See, I don't have it up on my screen. So I.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. So you can go ahead.
Okay.
There you
Okay.
go.
There.
There we go.
I got it conquered.
Okay.
Okay. So I was only vaguely aware of a few of the most sensational appearances, such as the luminous figure known as the Lady of Fatima, who supposedly appeared to 3 shepherd children in 1917 and set the sun to spinning in the sky above thousands of people in Fatima, Portugal. Then you have the Lady of Lourdes, who appeared in 1858 in France to a poor girl named Bernadette and brought forth a spring with healing water. And the Lady of Guadalupe, who appeared in 1531 in Mexico to an Aztec peasant, leaving a permanent image of herself imprinted on his cloak.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So my perception of the Marian apparition phenomenon changed radically from skeptical indifference to intrigue about 18 months ago when I heard Chris Bledsoe recount his life-changing story of high strangeness in a podcast interview, beginning in 2007 and continuing to this day. This humble, deeply spiritual man from North Carolina has been experiencing otherworldly occurrences that include UFO abductions with hours of missing time, appearances of glowing celestial beings, shadow beings, intelligent and sentient shape-shifting orbs, both inside and outside his home, near-death experiences, portals, the uncanny ability to self-heal and heal others, and to manifest orbs and UFOs by humbly praying for them to appear for hundreds to see. So what really piqued my interest about Chris Bledsoe were that in 2012 and 2013, he had visitations at his home with a luminous being he calls the Lady in White.
Can you? I think it was the last slide you had. If you want to go back to the last slide.
Yeah, I'll go back.
Yeah,
This is the apparition that he saw, the Lady in White. So what this is important here. This is Chris Bledsoe. This is his book that he wrote about his basically his life story, UFO of God. And it's interesting that he equates UFOs with God. They aren't definitely not nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Okay. So the lady who identified herself as the Egyptian goddess Hathor prophesied a new knowledge, return of the divine feminine, and ascendancy of female power to take place on or near the 2006 spring equinox.
Wow.
The lady told Bledsoe that she had appeared many times before, mentioning the Lady of Fatima and the Lady of Guadalupe.
Okay.
She insisted that Bledsoe tell the world that humanity has free will to choose to live in fear and die in fear, Armageddon, or to live in love and enter an age of Aquarius with 1,000 years of peace.
Okay.
So I was first wary of of Bledsoe's testimony and dismissed it as so much New Age woo-woo until I learned that his claims had been investigated by high-ranking officials from NASA, the CIA, the DIA, the DOD. I mean, these are the
All
CIA,
the alphabet soup, basically. Like they're all.
The intel soup across the board.
Yeah. Now, can
the
I?
U.S. military, the Vatican, as well as scientists, academics, and UFO investigators,
Okay.
making him the world's most researched and validated UFO contactee.
Wow.
Contactee.
Can I just jump in here just for 1 second though? Because right away, and I'm sorry, I hate doing this because I don't like to interrupt people when they're doing their presentation, but right away, what's piquing my interest right here is that we're talking about Hathor. And, Hathor is such an important Egyptian goddess. And, we just don't have time today to go into all of that. We've covered this sort of thing before. But it's interesting because Hathor is a goddess that it's about feminine energy. And what's interesting is that 2026 is bringing about the sacred feminine. I know that you've talked about this before in a previous presentation, so people really should check out her previous presentation. But then now we're talking about how she is connected, like how Hathor is connected with the Mother Mary. And can we just make some sort of connection here?
That's sort of like,
you know what I mean?
It's anomalous. And again, there have been approximately, and again, you'll have some of this repeated along the way here.
Yeah.
There have been approximately 2,500 Marian apparitions reported since 40 AD.
Okay.
Of which virtually all of them, without exception, have basically been identified or assumed to be the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Okay.
They have never called themselves Mary, but they are assumed to be Mary.
By
she
humans.
is an exception. Two exceptions. Not only did she come out and say, "I am Hathor," and there, just say here,
and she said this to Chris Bledsoe.
She's got the bull, the Hathor, bull. That's right.
But did she say this to Chris Bledsoe? Did she actually come up to Chris Bledsoe? Because I haven't read the book, and I mean, at this point, I'm going to definitely buy the book. But she actually came up and said, "I am Hathor."
I am Hathor.
Okay.
And again, never before, apparently in 2,500 appearances, has the lady ever identified herself.
Okay.
She would say, "I am the Lady of all nations. I am the Lady of snows. I am the Lady of lords. I am the Lady of this. I am the Lady of Guadalupe." This is the first. So we need to get into that in the end, because I think it's really important. So this was a very, I hadn't realized it was such an anomaly until I did all the research here.
Yeah.
So we'll go on here.
And just to say, Sita Singh says everyone can meet with her at any faith, and that. Thank you so much, Sita, for pointing that out. So it shows that obviously that's the case, that she can, regardless of your faith, she's there for you. Anyways, enough of me.
Okay, so anyway, she identified the lady who appeared to Chris Bledsoe, identified herself as the Egyptian goddess Hathor.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, again, this is unique, and not only that, but out of 2,500 appearances, he is the first Protestant.
Oh,
which is
that's kind of interesting.
Totally it's an anomaly in the whole phenomenon.
Okay, but that is interesting, though, isn't that though? We're going from Hathor, but it's the first Protestant. So he himself is a Protestant, and he's being told that, he could have been told, okay, Mother Mary, but instead he's being told that this is Hathor. So there's a real interesting connection here.
Correct. But she also associates herself with previous apparitions of the Blessed Virgin Mary, like the Lady of Fatima, the Lady of Guadalupe. So she says, she has appeared many times before. Okay. But this time she identifies herself not as the Blessed Virgin Mary, but as Hathor, an Egyptian goddess.
Okay.
Okay. So she insisted that Bledsoe tell the world that humanity has free will to choose to live in fear and die in fear, Armageddon, or to live in love and enter an age of Aquarius with 1,000 years of peace. So and that's this whole thing. So intrigued with this mysterious lady in white, I ordered his 2003 book, UFO of God, The Extraordinary True Story of Chris Bledsoe, before the show even ended.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. So when I decided to explore the Marian Apparition phenomena to better understand Chris Bledsoe's experience with the Lady in White, I had no idea I was embarking on a journey that would take me back to 40 AD and entail an estimated 2,500 reports of the Blessed Virgin Mary, or BVM as it's shortened to.
Okay.
And there have been 700 occurrences just since in the 20th century alone. So it seems to be really ratcheting up for whatever reason.
Wow.
Okay, now, so there's only been 400 that have been investigated by the Holy See, with 16 having been officially approved, while another 22 are worthy of belief. So what does it take to be approved? Well, first of all, in the 16th century, the Roman Catholic Church instituted a strict verification process that covers many aspects of the apparition, including the authenticity and mental stability of the seer, the person to whom the apparition was directed to, and to be worthy of belief and church support. The apparitions must also be deemed miraculous with a high degree of certainty and in line with church doctrine. And found to have a positive impact on the church. So keep in mind that only reports deemed supernatural and comply with the official Catholic message will be approved.
Okay.
So examples of the types of things that are the aspects that are considered there are 5 things that they look at. The Holy See looks at. They look at to see if it's an actual apparition, such as the Lady of Fatima, where some kind of apparition appears to the seers, to the individual to whom it was directed. And there has to be somehow it includes miraculous images. The Lady of Guadalupe's image was embedded on the seer's cloak. And again, when you see these images of the Lady of Guadalupe, that's actually what was on her, that was embedded on her cloak. But I'm going to get into that later, because that's an extraordinary story in it. Believe me, an extraordinary story in itself. And it also they consider Eucharistic miracles, in which where the bread and wine used in communion are believed to have been transformed into the actual body and blood of Christ, along with visible signs such as bleeding or changes in appearance. So there have been some occurrences when the miracle consisted of visible evidence that the bread and wine was transferred into an actual body or blood of Christ.
Now
you also have the stigmatas, including, and for example, you have Padre Pio, an Italian priest who bore a continuous bleeding stigmata for 50 years, beginning in 1918. Even though he continued to carry out his church duties, his stigmata continued to bleed.
Okay, but
and then you have the incorruptibles. Getting back to the Lady of Guadalupe, neither the cactus fiber cloak that the seer, the individual, was wearing, that had the her image embedded on it, nor his body that was interred have degraded in over 500 years. They are both, and then I will go into this later. They are both pristine after 500 years. Both her cloak with the image and the seer's body. I will be getting into that. Okay.
But can I just sort of jump in here again? Because you're saying that the church only recognized apparitions that were deemed, in their opinion, to be of a miraculous nature, and they had to sort of affect the church in a positive way. Now, we're not going to get into the whole sort of like church.
Those are the number one things. Although Pope Leo
Yeah.
just recently just came out and took the supernatural out,
Okay.
and says and said that now if it's beneficial to humanity, they can consider it.
Okay.
They have taken out the app. Before, there was an absolute requirement that it had some aspect of the supernatural. Being the Eucharistic miracle, the stigmata, the incorruptible, something like that. So now that has been removed, and now it is whether the church deems that the apparition is beneficial to its believers and to humanity. So and that's very, very recent.
Yeah, but where I'm getting at with this is that if the church was the one at the time, not recently, but at the time, was the one saying that it had to have a supernatural aspect to it, and it had to be deemed by the church to be supernatural, then that means there must be a whole bunch of different apparitions and things that have happened that the church has not deemed yet. So you know what I mean? Like, it means that the number is that much bigger.
Yeah. Out of the 2,500 reported sites, they apparently have investigated 400 of them.
Okay.
And out of that 400, I have up now that as of today, there are 16 Marian apparitions that are officially recognized by the Vatican. And this is the list of those. And so when these apparitions were approved, they all required a supernatural aspect to them. Now they can approve without that, but all of these, and believe me, when you start looking into the supernatural, some of this stuff is, and I will be getting into some of this stuff, is absolutely extraordinary. But those are the 16 that have gone through, and sometimes it takes not weeks, years, it takes centuries for the Vatican to actually go through the process of approving beyond doubt. Because when they put their pontifical stamp on these, they're certain that these warrant approval to be believed in, although you're not required to believe in them.
But it still begs the question, though, of how many that have not received the papal stamp of approval are out there. So that means that it's even more than just 2,500. You know what I mean?
Well, those are the ones that have been reported.
Yeah.
And there could very well be, and you have to think, my goodness, that is a lot. 2,500 is a lot.
It's a lot. It is a lot. But there's a lot more, though. Maybe I'm just sort of like going off shooting from the hip here, but I think there's a lot more than that. That even the church, because sometimes you sort of like saying, well, a lot more people see UFOs than is actually reported. A lot of people choose not to report it. So
that's true, and it could very well be. See, almost all of these reports again were from the seer. Again, is the individual to whom the apparition was directed to. The seers were either Catholic or lived in a largely Catholic area, like again Portugal, Spain, whatever. But you have to think. Well, see now, Chris Bledsoe, he's a Protestant. Yeah. His story came out, but how many of these appearances have come to, again, a Protestant, a Muslim, somebody with a religious background, or even skeptical, where they can't go there? If I would suspect if you're a fundamentalist Baptist, you're not about to bring up the fact that this lady appeared in your backyard and whatever. So
that's why there's a lot more.
Many times more that have appeared.
Absolutely.
These are the ones that have been reported.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's exactly the same thing with UFOs. Okay. So these are the ones, I won't go into them because I'm going to be going into a couple of them that are real standouts. So again, who and what hides behind the veil, types of miracles. Okay, so first of all, almost all of these occurrences of the BVM, the Blessed Virgin Mary, involve a young, exquisitely beautiful female who appears amid spectacular supernatural phenomena, such as brilliant flashes of blue-white light, and that these seers, the thing is, these seers are usually illiterate young children, usually with a Catholic background in countries with a large Catholic population. These apparitions, they largely they can communicate telepathically. Many of them are telepathic, as was Chris Bledsoe's, or verbally, where they actually speak to the seers, again, the individual, or they remain silent. There have been a number of cases where they just appeared, like the Lady of Zetoun, who appeared in front of 1 million people in Cairo, Egypt, over a Coptic church in 1968, where she basically was this luminous figure that hovered over the church for several hours, but never spoke. I mean, she was seen by, and I didn't have the time to go in her, but this is one of the most extraordinary cases. And again, she was speaking to just say, I have to take this because I am expecting an out of town guest who's probably lost.
Okay, but you know what though? While you're doing that, I just wanted.
Okay, no, she's fine. She's fine.
Okay, but I just wanted to just point out. So I have somebody here, Lenkoya 7214, who says that the list should include. I think your list included Kibho in Rwanda.
Yes.
And then she says Medjugorje, I think. And
Medjugorje is not yet approved, or at least not. I think it has been approved for. It can be believed, but it's not been officially approved.
Okay, and then there's also Garabandal, which I've also heard of as well. Garabandal.
Again, is that
Yeah.
And again, there's a whole list again, like 22 that are deemed worthy of belief.
Okay.
And I think that includes Medjugorje, Garabandal, and a number of others. So they have two. They have this where this is ironclad, but they also have another 22. And I believe they just added another one from Slovakia.
Okay, yeah. So basically, Lenkoya, thank you so much for bringing that up. And
yes, that's right.
She also,
they have two categories. The ones you're talking about are in the next category of worthy of belief, but not necessarily approved.
Got it. And Lenkoya 7214 says, "Do you know the prophecies of Garabandal?" Just a little bit.
I have them listed. I'm mentioning it later.
Okay, great. So then, Lenkoya, just stay with us, and we'll talk more about Garabandal.
Stay with us, and I'll be getting into it.
Okay, great.
Okay. Then I have to kind of find my way back. Okay.
So I think we were like 2 slides ahead.
There we go. Now. Okay. So it said they communicate telepathically, verbally, or remain silent. Although the celestial beings almost never identify themselves as Mother of Jesus, or the Blessed Virgin Mary, the apparition subtly guides the seers to insinuate the connection by calling themselves Queen of Heaven, Immaculate Conception, or the Mother of God. A notable exception is the Lady in White who appeared to Chris Bledsoe, a Protestant who was a deacon in the Pentecostal Holiness Church. She identified herself telepathically to Bledsoe as the Egyptian goddess Hathor, and claims to have appeared many times before as the Lady of Fatima, Lady of Guadalupe, and others. So it seems strange to call these appearances Marian Apparitions or the Blessed Virgin Mary, since the seers often have to plead repeatedly for a name, any kind of a name, only to have the lady, and of course she's always a lady, laugh and smile, but evade the request. When they do answer, they are very strict about what they want to be called and how to evoke them, how to call them forth. In fact, they would sometimes say bizarre things like, "I am the Queen of Roses. Do not confuse me with the Queen of Rosaries."
Okay.
Who was another appearance. Or she'd say, "The whole world is degenerating, and because of this, the Son," presumably Jesus, "is sending the Lady of all nations." And mostly, though, the seers, the pilgrims who come by the millions to these sites afterwards, and the Catholic Church assume that the apparitions are the Blessed Virgin Mary, because they're led because of her appearance, and that she's often seen holding a child, presumably the baby Jesus. Okay. Now, just to show you how important Marian apparitions are, the feature article in the December 2015 issue of National Geographic was Mary, the most powerful woman in the world. Mm-hmm. I would say that in today's terminologies, the most powerful influencer
there you go.
ever known.
There you go.
Yeah,
an influencer. I like that.
Because that was a term not really used in 2015.
Exactly. Okay. No, why not?
Okay. The article explored the worldwide phenomenon of devotion to Mary, the Mother of God, in anticipation of the National Geographic Channel's Christmas special called The Cult of Mary. Mm-hmm. And I usually bristle when the term cult is associated with the feminine because it's a derogatory term, and the term is often associated to things that are feminine. Mm-hmm. And usually it's like the goddess cult. It's often it's something that, mm-hmm. and again, it's because it is derogatory, and you often see it associated with those things that are feminine.
Okay.
And it's a term that's used to describe generally social groups that have unusual and often extreme mm-hmm. religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs and rituals. But, think Jim Jones, Harry Christmas, Heaven's Gate.
Exactly. But that was just about to point that out, that actually most cults are led by men.
Okay, now let me get on with this. To this day, I see patriarchal influences peeking through scholarly articles titled like The Cult of the Ancient Goddesses. Mm-hmm. I mean, modern day current even feminist scholars use this cult, and I think is so embedded within the patriarchal way of looking at the world. I don't think they understand how derogatory it is. Okay. So whereas followers of Jesus, Buddha, or Muhammad are never referred to as cultists. Mm-hmm. However, other characteristics often ascribed to cults, which are like social groups with extreme devotion to a particular person, object, or goal. I mean, I have to agree. Okay. It applies to Mary, these worshipers of Mary. Mm-hmm. I think there is a cult of Mary. Mm-hmm. And it's, again, so as you can see, a case can be made that the cult applies to Mariology. Okay. Believe me, there is a worship of this woman. Mm-hmm. And again, I think oddly enough, National Geographic's nailed it.
Okay. But what's interesting though is that there was also the cult of Isis, and there was also the cult of Hathor, which was one of the most important cults. The religion.
That's right, and it's always a derogatory put down.
But that wasn't derogatory back then. In Egypt, that wouldn't have been considered derogatory. No. But
the term wasn't used in Egypt. It's largely used in modern academia. I got it. By scholars. Okay. So yeah. Okay. And I thought this was really cute. That I think this is from the Metahora in Yugoslavia. Okay. Where there were signs of, "Have you seen the Blessed Mary?" and a number to call if you had seen her and you could report it.
That's good.
Okay, and this is an infographic that was put out in that same article, the National Geographic article, that shows basically where these are probably, I don't know, I haven't counted them, mm-hmm. but probably the most important 200 or 300 sightings, mm-hmm. so they can kind of show you where they're occurring. And you can see that, where they're occurring is largely in countries with a large Catholic population. Yeah. But also, you see some big gaps, mm-hmm. in places where they're not seen. Yeah. And they have them. And then the timeline going from the Lady of Guadalupe in 1531 all the way up basically to the most current sightings, which I would think would be Metahora in Yugoslavia, which is ongoing. Okay. And believe me, the Chris Bledsoe's Lady in White, it appears nowhere. I mean, it appears Nowhere. If you don't have a
Mm-hmm.
background in UFOs, you will not know of its existence. So
Hmm.
these are all the just
Okay.
so these are all the ones basically that have been reported to the Catholic Church,
Mm-hmm.
and they have been marked as either supernatural expressions of faith. This is what I was saying, where some of them are accepted as expressions of faith.
Mm-hmm.
You're not required to believe them, but they're accepted as being genuine. A
Okay.
local tradition. It's nothing more than like
Mm-hmm.
a local myth or legend. And the unconfirmed, which is by far, well, of the 400, it is by far either those that they haven't gotten to, or it's in the process of being investigated. And I
Mm-hmm.
got to give a credit to the Catholic Church, to the Holy See, when they investigate these things. I mean they get into everything.
Okay.
So the investigations are extraordinary. And again, sometimes it has taken centuries for them to finally get through all the information and make a decision.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
Okay.
so they're thorough. I mean, basically, they're
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 very, very,
they're very
very
thorough.
thorough.
Okay. Well, good for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So getting back here to where I left off. So out of the more than 700 claimed apparitions that have been made over the past century or so, um, most receive no judgment from the local bishop. I mean, how much time do they have?
Yeah.
Only 12 have received episcopal approval, or I should say 16, with just 4 being recognized as authentic by the Holy See. 120 alleged visions have already been rejected as not being supernatural, of supernatural origin. And red flags, according to the Vatican norms, include doctrinal errors, where they got the message wrong,
Okay.
um, or it got doctrinal errors attributed to God, Mary, or to the saints, where there may be factual errors regarding the alleged supernatural fault, moral fault, such as of the seers, that is, such as profit seeking by the seer or his or her followers,
Mm-hmm.
or psychological disorders or general hysteria. So among the visions that have been rejected are the alleged vision of Our Lady of Roses in Bayside, Queens, New York, that occurred in the 1970s, and is often the case. And this is one of the things that really, where it brings the cult in, often is the case. Rejection by the Vatican does not deter the pilgrims. The
Okay.
Bayside event spawned a movement of believers who continue to come by the thousands, and they don't care whether the Vatican believes it or
Mm.
not.
Okay.
They do.
Okay. Well, power to the people. No. I
Well,
mean.
well, it's power to the belief, the power of belief.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So anyway, so we're going to go into um, since many basilicas, churches, and shrines are often established at this site, it's probably prudent to clarify terms. So, a cathedral is a seat of the bishop, while a basilica is a church designated by the Pope for its historical or cultural significance. There are around 2,000 basilicas around the world dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary. A Marian shrine is a site marking where an apparition or other miracle ascribed to the Blessed Virgin Mary, BVM, took place. About 80% of the hundreds of Catholic shrines around the world are dedicated to her. This is really extraordinary. I mean, just the Blessed Virgin Mary it's almost like she has this power of coming through. I mean, these shrines aren't dedicated to Jesus or the baby Jesus. I mean, they're dedicated to Mary, the Blessed
Mm-hmm.
Virgin Mary.
Mm-hmm.
So that has to be kept in consideration. So some variations of the Virgin Mary, some variation of the Virgin Mary is the most popular church name, and approximately 1 out of 4 Catholic churches, shrines, and basilicas globally are dedicated to Our Lady. Think of Notre Dame. Our Lady in Paris, France. In the United States, there are 42 churches and 46 cathedrals dedicated to Our Lady. This is the, and then we have, let's see, the largest, let's see, the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C., and I'll get that to the next in the next image.
Sure.
The preeminent American Marian Shrine is dedicated to the patroness of the United States. However, it's this one. It's the largest Roman Catholic church in. Okay, the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception is the largest Roman Catholic church in North America and one of the 10 largest churches in the world, and receives 1 million visitors every year. So that's in the U.S.
Okay.
There's another, again, I need to get back to this. So as you can see, this is the largest church. This is in Rome. It's part of the whole papal, it would say, the whole papal complex, and it is the largest church in the world dedicated to St. Mary's. And you can see they do not stint with the decorations here.
No, that's for sure.
And according to the legend, the basilica, which is sometimes referred to Our Lady of the Snow, a Roman patron and his wife, who were without heirs, made a vow in 352 AD to donate the possessions to the Virgin Mary. The couple prayed that she might make known how they were to dispose of their property in her honor. So on August 5th of 352, at the height of summer, snow fell during the night on the summit of a hill. In obedience to the vision of the Virgin Mary, which they had that night, the couple built a basilica in honor of Mary on the very spot that was covered with snow. So that is the story behind the largest basilica in the world, which is in Rome. Okay, now we're going to get to, and again, I get all of them. You can't believe they're all, I swear, these shrines around the world are unbelievable.
Oh,
okay,
nice.
So here we have the second largest basilica to Marian Basilica in the world. This one in Brazil, and it's dedicated to Our Lady of Aparecida. And it's the second largest church dedicated to St. Mary, and accommodates 45,000 attendees.
Wow.
On feast day, which is October 12th, an estimated to 1 million pilgrims come in just one day. Wow. And as you can see, I mean, so this is an example of what is all over the world. Okay, so here we have again the Basilica of the. I have these. I should have moved this up, but I didn't. So this is the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. And so I've already done the rest of this. And this one over here it's the Basilica dedicated to Our Lady of Victory in Lackawanna, New York. And you see the inside. I mean, some of these are absolute architectural treasures. And they're extraordinary buildings. Oh, and this one, oh my God. When I came across this, I couldn't believe what I was reading. So this one is the Sanctuary of Our Lady of Loreto in Loreto, Italy. And the story is, during the Crusades, Muslims gained control of the Holy Land, destroying or desecrating Christian sacred sites, including the Holy House of Nazareth, where the Virgin Mary lived, or had lived, in 40 AD. So this was, 1,000 years before, the house where Mary had lived, and God knows how it still existed 1,000 years later, but apparently it did. So legend has it in the 13th century, angels miraculously transported the holy house from Nazareth, where Mother Mary had lived, to Loreto, Italy, to protect it from further destruction. The holy house was carried by angels across the Mediterranean Sea, guided by divine intervention. As the house approached the shores of Italy, it is said it emitted a radiant light, illuminating the night sky and attracting the attention of the local townspeople. Witnessing this miraculous sight, they welcomed the Holy House with open arms and built a magnificent basilica to enshrine it. And it draws 4 million pilgrims a year. So this over here, the box is, this marble box is basically the house. The Holy House is kept protected inside that. And this is the Holy House, supposedly, as that still supposedly was still in existence in 1300 AD.
Mm-hmm.
And that supposedly is what's inside this marble house. And then, of course, it's included in this extraordinary, again, this basilica, huge, and you can see the interior of the basilica, the dome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the sort of stuff that you come across and say, am I really reading this?
But can I just sort of jump in here again?
Mm-hmm.
So if I understand correctly, this basilica was transported. Am I understanding it, or am I misunderstanding?
No, the Holy House was transported.
Okay.
It alone.
The Holy House alone.
By angels, under divine direction, brought to this town of Loreto, Italy. When they recognized it as being something special, they had a basically as a mausoleum built around it to protect it. And then later, this basilica that you can see at the top was built.
Okay.
It's another shrine. So
now, are we saying that this Holy House that was transported by angels, are we talking about angels, or are we now sort of veering off into?
All they're saying is that it was carried. The people who saw this phenomenon said it was carried by angels. It could very well have been nothing more than a bright light.
Okay, but you see, that already is sort of like beings and bright lights.
It emitted a radiant light that illuminated the night sky. I suspect, again, it was an assumption that there were angels in this bright light transporting this.
Okay, so we're looking at something that's a little bit more technological, if we want to go down that road.
Well, see, this sort of gets into,
what I mean? Because
if one wants to go towards like
it's not angels,
sort of end.
Because if it's not angels, then we're talking about something else, beings, quote unquote, and a big bright flash
it was assumed,
moving stuff around.
Because it was assumed because there was a bright light that it was carried by angels. That is only an assumption by the locals back in 1300. And again, they had no other reference for anything other than it must have been angels, because what else could it have been?
Yeah, well, it could have been something else, but anyways.
We know.
I digress.
Back then, when I read this, and then it gets 4 million pilgrim visitors a year.
But that's what I mean by when I was a kid, I would read the Bible, and I would see these references and passages that, in my opinion, seem to point to something a bit more technological. Same thing with the Lady of Fatima, a disc flying around and dancing around with lights. I don't know. You tell me.
But the true believers will deny that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I found it interesting that, these, you have these shrines dedicated to Mary all throughout the U.S. And in fact, in my little town of Port Townsend, Washington, we have St. Mary, Star of the Sea, Roman Catholic Church. So it's and again, it's even the church in my little town here. Okay, so what hides behind the veil? So when I started to look at these, to analyze these various apparitions, these were the kinds of things that I was taking into account. That the apparition event, the name of it, like the miracle of the sun, which would be Fatima. The date, time of day, location, blah blah. The social political context. Well, let's say with the Lady of Fatima, it was during World War I, and it was with the location. See, it's one of those strange things where it occurred in one of the remotest, out of the way places in Portugal. And I mean, they had no roads. I mean, it was like just a pile of rocks out there. But one of the important things is what were the preceding? Did things happen before it? Well, yes, sometimes things were seen before it. So these are the contexts that I looked through. And her appearance, did she come with a light, like a brilliant light, like the like with Chris Bledsoe, she came with a light and through a portal.
Mm-hmm.
Was she alone? Sometimes she's accompanied by Saint Michael or Saint Gabriel, sometimes by something that looks like a cherub. But when she's accompanied, she's only occasionally accompanied by a companion. Again, Saint Michael's, Gabriel, or this cherub. But they're never the big deal. Mm-hmm. They're like kind of like introducing the fact that she's coming, or just they set the stage. Mm-hmm. Just as, let me check my phone.
Okay, they're basically their warm-up act. Just before.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Well, it's this is really, really good. This is really, and I want to just let you know that a lot of people are very impressed with the amount of research you've done, Maurene. We really love it.
And again, there's all these different aspects of it. Mm-hmm. Does she perform miracles? Are there tangible acts, like with the lady of Our Lady of Lourdes, where a spring came forth? Physical evidence that something happened. Was she telepathic, or did she speak? Was she non-speaking? Did she convey a message? Well, not all of them do. Were there prophecies like the Lady of Fatima? Mm-hmm. Were they fulfilled or not? Were there threats and demands, of which there often are? Warnings of impending catastrophes, which there often are. Mm-hmm. And do they identify themselves? They generally, again, how do they identify themselves? Again, we've already discussed the fact that she almost never never identifies herself as Mary, the Blessed Virgin Mary, but often, like, again, the Lady of Fatima, the Lady of the Snow, something, mm-hmm. some other name. Okay. Mm-hmm. The Lady of all nations, the Lady of Peace, whatever. Okay. And are there evidence of orbs, UFOs, or other paranormal experiences or occurrences? Well, I think Fatima is a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. as well as the Chris Bledsoe incidents. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then you look into the seers, and the seers, again, are the individuals to whom this was directed to, and the witnesses are those people who often are the immediate people afterwards who come and see it. People from the townspeople, the bishop, that sort of thing. Pilgrims are the multitudes, I would say the grassroots devout who come after the fact. Once it's been known to the general public, like in Fatima, the 70,000 people who showed up at Fatima mm-hmm. would have been regarded as the pilgrims. Okay. And then describe the seers' socio-political context. Well, the three little kids who saw the Lady of Fatima, I mean, they were poor, illiterate little shepherd kids, in a desperately poor town. And then did they develop heightened supernatural abilities? Well, say Chris Bledsoe did. Mm-hmm. Hang on. This is probably my guess. I'm sorry about the answer.
Okay.
Okay.
So yes. these little kids, but what I find is interesting is that you have so many people that are seeing this that it's hard to discredit. Especially
you're
when
a ways
all those
away
people
then.
talk about
you're still like 45 minutes away. Okay, I'm on Zoom right now. So call me when you get into Port Townsend. Okay, bye-bye. My out-of-town guest is still 40 minutes away, so okay. I'm going to go here. Okay, so, and again, did they experience an abduction phenomenon or missing time? This is really something that's occurred with Chris Bledsoe that I don't see any evidence of before. At least it wasn't talked about. And again, you have to talk about, well, who were the witnesses, the grassroots devout, the pilgrims, and mm-hmm. kind of like, who were they? And then again, heightened ability to heal or be healed or call orbs. This is something that's like particular to Chris Bledsoe. And again, the socio-political impact. And this was something that I found probably the single most important aspect of the whole phenomena. That, as you will see with some of the slides that are coming up, in some cases, they completely changed the course of human history. Mm-hmm. They had tremendous impact. They aren't just a religious, spiritual phenomena that people just see. They, in many cases, literally changed the course of human history. Mm-hmm. So that's, and then the last thing here, the tangible evidence, photos or artifacts. Well, the tangible evidence, again, with the Lady of Lourdes, where she brought forth a spring of healing water, and the Lady of Zaytun in Cairo, Egypt in 1968, where many photographs and videos were taken of her. It was recent enough where there could actually be photographs of her standing in her luminosity on top of the St. Mary's Coptic Church.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, now, so we're sort of like back to the beginning.
Okay.
So, spurred on by the bizarre occurrences of Chris Bledsoe and his family have been experiencing for nearly 20 years, including the 2 visitations with the Lady in White, I began to analyze the data and patterns and similarities of some of the most famous appearances of these mysterious personages. That was that list you just saw. This endeavor was not easy because most sources of information are either filtered through a biblical perspective that automatically interprets us as the Blessed Virgin Mary, or that New Age Mariology that views the phenomenon largely through a lens of, say, love and light.
Mm-hmm.
And as I dug deeper into the phenomenon, my background as a UFO investigator and confidant to hundreds of experiencers left me with many unsettling questions. Foremost, what and who are these Marian apparitions really, and do they have an agenda? So the goal of this presentation is not to prove whether Marian apparitions are real, because there's no question that something paranormal is occurring and has been for millennia. But to explore the possibility I found truly disturbing, that Marian apparitions may be puppets controlled, and this I'm kind of like jumping ahead, controlled by an extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or ultra-dimensional puppet master that has been guiding humanity's destiny since the beginning. And these ones, the slides I'm going to be bringing up, the examples I'm going to be bringing up, kind of bring that into focus.
Fair enough.
So how do we know if the apparition has our best interest at heart? Is there deception or even something sinister involved? These questions echo those of Jacques Vallée, the brilliant computer scientist and UFO researcher, who said, I speculate that somebody or something is busy recompiling our reality. In other words, manufacturing our reality.
Okay. But that's not the first time we've heard that before, though. A lot of people are saying,
no.
And we're living in some sort of, sort of like Matrix.
Charles Fort, one of the first researchers of the paranormal, also concluded 100 years ago that we are somebody's property.
And that's interesting, because a lot of people are saying that this planet, depending on what you want to believe, is owned, and I don't know if it's just sort of like one guy, like a Jeff Bezos of intergalactic Jeff Bezos.
This goes back thousands of years.
Okay, yeah. So I mean
literally, this literally goes. So it has nothing to do with Bezos. They may be
I'm saying, is there an intergalactic
fine-tuning the technology, but it goes back thousands of years.
Yeah, no, but what I meant to say was to use as an example, like, is there some sort of intergalactic Jeff Bezos who's a billionaire and he owns planets and stuff like that? You know what I mean? Is it that,
absolutely.
Or is it
who may be playing with us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so in other words, is the Blessed Virgin Mary messengers of deception? That was one of the things I started to put in the back of my mind as I started to analyze these phenomena. So to help me untangle the threads of discordant and emotionally charged information, I have fortunately made connections with a handful of researchers from around the world who are exploring these possibilities. Diana Pasulka, the professor of religion at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, is one of the few academics who is seriously investigating the possible UFO Marian apparition connection.
Okay.
Even though she's really probably. It's kind of like Avi Loeb, the Harvard astronomer, who's talking about the possibility that 3-1-I Atlas might be an alien craft and sticking his neck out. Well, and he's alone in the world out there.
Yeah.
Well, she's kind of alone in the world out there, where she's seeing a possible connection between these Marian apparitions and UFOs, because she said there's so much of it is similar. So even though I suspect Miss Pasulka is correct that the appearance of Marian apparitions share many common features with reports of contact with UFOs, and both may be manifestations of the same underlying reality, the sheer enormity of the phenomenon requires that I focus on a few tiny examples of their miracles and cryptic messages.
Okay.
So later, I would like to get into this whole different topic of the Marian apparitions and UFOs, but that has to wait for another time.
Oh, absolutely. I think you've just really scratched the surface. I think there's
absolutely.
so much.
I've been at this for
and
3
you
months.
have to come back.
I can show you the stack of books that I.
Oh yeah,
in fact,
no.
In fact, I can show you.
Absolutely. I know.
This is just the stuff that I've copied from online,
Mm-hmm.
different interviews and papers and whatever. I have a whole stack of books over here.
Yeah.
I listen to so I am so anyway. Said I can kind of also. I only dip my toes. I'll only dip my toes into the UFO and the paranormal,
Mm-hmm.
which I'd love to dive into because it's like literally diving off the high diving board into deep water.
Yeah.
But that has to wait for the next one.
Oh yeah, for
Okay,
sure. And
it's
we
gonna
have to
get-
look at the. I mean, I hate to sort of, put out a special request, but we really need to look at this whole Hathor thing. That has to be explored.
Oh,
You know what I
see
mean?
that-
And
the
I'd
whole
love
thing
to
with-
work with you on that
with
one because I think that's a
Hathor-
deep one that is tied to, if I may, tied to
Yeah.
Atlantis in some ways. But we're going way off course here. But I just wanted to sort
That's
of bring
right.
that
So
up.
that's going to be the next one.
Yeah, that's the next
Okay,
one.
so
Okay.
due to time constraints, I will discuss only the messages, miracles, and mysteries of a few appearances that have had the greatest impact on the course of human history.
Okay.
Okay. So here we have the one nobody ever talks about. You'll know even that timeline. They all start with Our Lady of Guadalupe in 1531. This, I figure, is the single most important Marian apparition that's never talked about.
Okay.
The Lady of the Pillar, Zaragoza, Spain, 40 AD. Okay. The story begins in 40 AD when the Apostle James the Greater, in obedience to Jesus' command to spread the gospel to the ends of the earth, embarked on a challenging journey across the Roman Empire. He eventually reached Zaragoza in northern Spain. Despite his dedication, his efforts to convert the local population, who were mainly pagans, bore little fruit. So, in this moment of desolation, during his time of prayer, the Apostle James experienced a miraculous event. A great flash of light engulfed him, and in it he saw a figure of a lady standing on a pillar of jasper, holding an infant in her arms, surrounded by thousands of angels. The lady comforted James, assured him that his work would eventually succeed. As a sign of her presence, she gave him a wooden statue of herself, which is the one here up in the middle, and the jasper pillar, and the pillar which the apparition, the little image sits on, is in what you see in this slide is that jasper pillar that she gave to James, that's now completely encased in priceless metals to protect it.
Okay.
And what you see in the middle of the wooden figure of herself is a copy, because there have been so many people who have handled it that it wears out. So this is actually a replica of the one that was. I suspect the Vatican has the original
Probably.
in its vault. So anyway, so getting back here. As a sign of her presence, she gave him a wooden statue of herself and instructed him to build a church on the site. She spoke to St. James, saying, "This place is to be my house. This image will be my title, and the column of this altar of the temple, and the column, the altar in the temple that you shall build." So this is, to this day, in this shrine that was eventually built. Of course, again, I'll finish with it. She requested that he build a church with the altar surrounding the pillar where she stood, right where she stood, which, by the way, is near water, which is very often the case, promising that this site would remain there until the end of time, so that the virtue of God may work many wonders through the intercession of intercession of those seeking my patronage in their needs. Now, what's really interesting is that, of course, he built something very simple, but this the cathedral basilica to Our Lady of the Pilar in Zaragoza, Spain. I mean, this is typical. I mean, this is all over the world. These shrines, I mean, they all look like that. I mean, they are extravaganza, and they get approximately 4 million visitors or pilgrims a year. Okay, so in obedience to her command, St. James constructed a small chapel to enshrine the jasper column and the statue of Mary. This chapel became the first church ever dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary, and today it is transformed into the magnificent Basilica of Our Lady of the Pilar in Zaragoza, Spain, that draws millions of pilgrims every year. Okay, and the original jasper pillar is now encased in precious metals, and the wooden statue of the Virgin Mary is still venerated by the countless faithful. Okay, now, so among Catholics, Mary's appearance to James in 40 AD is considered to be the first Marian apparition or bilocation. This is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Bilocation, because when she appeared in 40 AD, to James in Spain, she was known to be alive and well in Nazareth.
Oh, okay. So what are we saying then? Are we saying
since it's known as the first Mother Mary was still very much alive and living with Saint John the Evangelist in Nazareth at the time?
Okay.
It is not known what this apparition looked like, or if she identified herself, or if James simply assumed to be Mary. Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of this is, to me, this is so important in so many ways,
Mm-hmm.
and yet it is, again, almost, I stumbled onto it by accident.
Okay.
It's almost never talked about because it brings in this problem of, is it an apparition, or is it bilocation, or is it somebody else who walked in?
But that's the question though. So I mean, is because the apparition that appeared to Chris Bledsoe said, yes, I've appeared many times as Mother, Mother Mary, the lady, and all that. But you're saying that before, especially in 40 AD, the apparition never said, I am Mary, right?
They never do.
They never do. So
no,
bilocation would seem to
never
assume,
do.
but the bilocation would assume that this is Mary when it could have been somebody else. Because if they're not saying I'm Mary,
you're a Christian, and she appears the way one would imagine the Blessed Virgin Mary to appear.
Okay, but
you
that's because they're assuming.
It is. You assume. So
exactly. So the assumption is where we have the contention here, because the assumption is assuming, in which case it could be a fork in the road, couldn't it? Because you could have one people think it's Mary, and it could be somebody else.
An alien. This could be.
That's what I mean.
That's right. It could be somebody else, an avatar
exactly. Who's
so I think this is the reason it's never discussed, because it brings in too many problems.
Yeah. Somebody sort of like, taking on, like, will the real Marys please stand up? Like, I mean, taking on using it as a way to get into the population, into the zeitgeist. You know what I mean? Like, into how people are thinking.
That's right. Yeah. So anyway, in order, it was to spur, James on in Spain. So some of the key points is, since this appearance is the only known bilocation, one must ask if the being was truly Mary or an impostor. If it was Mary who birthed Jesus, then it suggests she was more than just a human girl with a womb.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, according to the text, Mary barely speaks and is mentioned less than 30 times in the whole New Testament. All references except one in the 4 gospel accounts, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that when all those references are in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Mary is not mentioned in the letters of the epistles in the New Testament, except with the phrase born of a woman, which would suggest she was human, not some kind of...
But, not to sort of go down a different path altogether, but, we all know the story about how Jesus was born of a virgin, and we know if anybody who's following this show knows that, sometimes women have these phantom pregnancies, and then all of a sudden they're pregnant. the baby disappears and all that kind of stuff, and the baby ends up being something other than, if you catch my meaning. So, like,
Yeah.
I mean, could this have been a situation where someone was, impregnated and,
Well, who knows?
you
But
know what I
the
mean?
point is that everything in the Bible suggests that that Mary was just a human woman.
Yes,
She was not divine in such a way that she would appear to James in Spain as this Marian
that's the
apparition.
thing.
Yeah.
So it
So,
goes
and to go
back to
on
that.
with this, it's so Marian is not mentioned in the epistles in the New Testament except that with the phrase "born of a woman," suggesting she's just human.
Mm-hmm.
See, while Jesus in this, while Jesus was saying things to basically giving accolades to his followers, one of the women in the crowd raised her voice and said to him, "Blessed is the womb that bore you and the breast at which you nursed." And he responded, "On the contrary, blessed are those who hear the word of the Lord and observe it." I mean, it's like he's not even,
Mm-hmm.
he's not even blessing the womb and the breasts
Mm-hmm.
that brought him life.
Mm-hmm.
Luke 11:27.
Okay.
Okay. And yet to appear as a Marian apparition, she must have been supernormal. So contrary to what many Christians believe, the Bible does not depict Mary in any special way other
Mm-hmm.
than that she conceived the Messiah
Mm-hmm.
while still a virgin.
Yes, but
Mary
that,
was
but
Mary an ordinary human like any other.
yeah, but you see, that's
Um,
why it's kind of interesting that
mhm.
Jesus was the one who had all these different sort of abilities and powers,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
it could be that she was just used as a vessel by
Well,
whatever higher
Well,
beings.
see, that's what the
You know what I
Bible
mean?
suggests, and yet,
Yeah.
so how does she? This is just the beginning.
Okay.
So she appeared in a blaze of light, as do many Marian apparitions, many Marian appearances do, as do many UFO encounters.
Okay.
Chris Bledsoe's Lady in White appeared in a flash of blue light white. So
Mm-hmm.
especially significant is that Marian apparitions are almost always associated with some sort of natural phenomena or display. In this case, a flash of light. In Lourdes, it was a miraculous well. In Fatima, it was a spinning sun. In Rome, it was snow out of season. But these are but a few examples. There are many more. So, and her spectacular appearance in this is what's really important. Her spectacular appearance inspired James and those who witnessed it, and had a major effect in ultimately to converting much of the world to Catholicism,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which has had a profound effect on the course of human history to this day.
Absolutely.
Her appearance basically turned the tide
Yeah.
towards converting the pagans in Spain, in other words, and literally impacted much of the world to this day.
Mm-hmm.
The impact of these Marian apparitions are mind-boggling. Okay, so and almost like all apparitions, she requested a church or shrine be erected upon a certain spot, and most notably in her honor. These are, I mean, you can see this is the Basilica of Our Lady of the Pillar, all Our Lady of this. They are, you know, I have to ask the question,
Mm-hmm.
for me at least, from a historical or theological standpoint, why would the Virgin Mary ask for a church to be built in her honor?
Mm-hmm.
Would it not be more appropriate to ask that a church be built in a church in God or Jesus' name be erected?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
find this point really most interesting and telling.
yeah.
And then again, I mean, all of these, she's dedicating all these to herself. As
Exactly.
you will see, this lady has an ego. I think an ego problem, and she's vain.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, you know
Mhm.
what? I'm glad you brought that up because sometimes
Mhm.
people don't want to go there because they're like, oh, sacrilegious. Okay, but the thing is that it has to be something that we have to look at, which is true. And you're
Yep.
right.
Mhm.
Why didn't she say just put it in the name of the Lord? And
That's right.
again, it
That's
goes
right.
back to the idea that whoever is doing this is doing this. And I'm gonna take a moment here. I know
Hmm.
because I have this crazy vision, and I'm sorry,
Hmm.
but it's so crazy. And I think to myself, if in the future, okay, people develop time travel, all right,
Hmm.
stick with me. If people develop time
Hmm.
travel, the the thing that people would want to do is to go back into the past and change history and change
Yeah.
it so that it goes into a certain direction. And I don't know what it is, but there's something in me that says, what if somebody in the future wanted to change the world to go in a certain direction, and someone appeared and said, look, build a church in my honor, or do this or do that. Look, I'm not doubting the existence of Jesus, not at all. He was definitely a real person and he existed. I'm not going to go down that road. But all these other stuff seems to me that it's somebody in a time machine or somebody from the future that is coming back.
There's something weird about the fact that she requested to have basically, and this is all, this is just one incident. It's like all of these shrines are basically, she wants them to be named after her, and you just have to wonder why.
Yeah.
So
it's to direct humanity.
Yeah, so she's the number one person who's important, not Jesus, not God. She's the number one influencer. Okay, so now we're going to go to one of the most interesting cases ever. Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico, 1531. Okay, so, and by the way, this again, the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe it gets 20 million pilgrims, the grassroots devout pilgrims every year. Okay. This is a big deal. Okay. So the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe is one of the most visited Marian shrines globally. Built at the BMV's, the Blessed Virgin Mary's request, to a peasant. She appeared to a peasant by the name of Juan Diego, and which we will get to. And this shrine houses a miraculous cloak called a tilma that bears this image. In fact, if you look at, I'll get to that. I'm jumping ahead. Okay, so today approximately 20 million pilgrims visit the shrine annually, making it the most visited shrine in the world. So on December 9th, 1531, Juan Diego, a Aztec peasant who had just converted to Catholicism, saw what he interpreted as the Virgin Mary on a barren hill near Mexico City. She asked him to build a church there. He told the Spanish Archbishop in Mexico City, and who advised Diego to return to the hill and ask the lady for a sign to prove her identity. Okay, so first the lady healed Juan's very sick and dying uncle, and then for a sign to prove her identity. Then 3 days later, he came back. Juan Diego came back to that spot, and she told him to gather flowers from the top of the hill. And again, this is in the winter. It was totally out of season. It was just barren, rocky desert up there, where he found roses growing on the cold, barren ground. She gathered them up and placed them in his cloak, called a tilma, a native garment woven. Basically, it's just a plain cloak. A native garment woven with cactus fibers for him to take back to the Archbishop. When Diego opened his tilma to show the roses, they fell to the floor, and an image of the lady was imprinted upon the inside of the tilma or the cloak. Okay. So the tilma is displayed to this day in the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And again, now, this is what you generally see because it's been embellished, but this is the actual image that was embedded on the inside of this cactus fiber cloak. Okay. I mean, it's, and you will soon get to see that it is absolutely extraordinary. This, I think this has probably been scientifically investigated.
Mm-hmm. More than the Shroud of Turin. You know what I mean?
Pardon?
More than the Shroud of Turin?
Probably more than the Shroud of Turin. Okay. There are so many and I'm going to get into the extraordinary things that go into this that really it makes it absolutely certain that what we're dealing with is paranormal. Okay. It is supernatural. Mm-hmm. So then And then, and again, there's always the impact on society. It resulted in 9 million conversions of the Aztecs. And basically this appearance basically started the conversion of like Mexico, Central America, and South America.
Okay.
So it had an extraordinarily important impact to this day.
So it's just then again the changing of history, right? Like again, it's leading large swaths of humanity.
She is guiding history.
Guiding history, and that's something upon we should look at.
Guiding our history. And so anyway, so scientists have discovered that Mary's eyes. Now again, this is what's inside the one without all the embellishments, which were added later by I get the church people to make it look fancy. But the one on the right is the actual image that is embedded on the inside of this fiber cloak. Okay. So scientists have discovered that Mary's eyes possess the three effects of image refraction of a living eye. For over 20 years, scientists have studied the image of the Virgin that was left on this fabric, this basically on the inside of this cactus fiber cloak, and and they can see through a microscope the iris. In the iris and the pupils of the eyes are imprinted in high detail. At least 13 people, including the bishop and Juan Diego himself, in both eyes, as they would be seeing it through the individual eyes. And these are blow-ups of the kind of detail that is seen literally in the eyes of this figure. And the same people are present in both left and right eye in different proportions, as it would happen if the human eye reflected the objects before them.
Yeah. Kind of hard to fake that, isn't it? You know?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, so these scientists believe that the reflection transmitted by the eyes of the Lady of Guadalupe show the image of literally the bishop that was there and other people who are identifiable that were in the room. So these scientists have used a digital process to probe this. So that's one thing. So the image, again, we're looking at the image, the whole image of her that's on the inside of this cactus fiber cloak, shows no signs of deterioration after nearly 500 years. The tilma or cloak that Juan Diego wore, on which the image of the lady was imprinted, is a coarse fabric made from threads of this certain kind of cactus. This fiber disintegrates within 20 or 30 years. Okay. It has a very short lifespan. There is no stretch, no sizing, and I mean there's nothing to protect the image. It's as it appeared 500 years ago, and it's again, with no signs of deterioration on the image itself. I mean, on the embedded image. Okay. So the image seems to increase in size and color due to an unknown process on the surface and the substance of which it was made. According to Kodak of Mexico, the image is smooth and feels like a modern day photograph, which was invented 300 years later. So on the morning in 1921, a bomb was detonated in the basilica at the feet of the cloak, the tilma.
Okay.
But and even though the explosion was heard a kilometer away, absolutely nothing happened to the image of the Lady of Guadalupe.
Wow.
Adjacent bronze candelabras and a crucifix on the altar were bent by the impact. It was like, even though the bomb went off at the base of this cloak, it was left unimpacted.
Wow. Well, you know, if that isn't supernatural and sort of like protection by God, I don't know what is.
Something was protecting, and it's not like it had any kind of glass. It was in no way being. It was just out there,
So basically, it
And when
should
they
have just
talk about it not
incinerated.
having deteriorated in 500 years, that also includes 500 years until recently, when it was like enclosed. It was handled by millions of people.
Yeah.
Candles were lit below it with soot and other particulates going up, and yet they've had no impact on it. Okay, let me go on. So studies have not succeeded in discovering the origin of the coloration of the image. When scientists studied the image in the late 1970s with infrared rays, they discovered to their surprise that there's no trace of paint and that the fabric had not been treated with any kind of technique. It was like it flashed on, very similar to the Shroud of Turin. Okay, and the stars on the mantle, and you can't see them here, but apparently there are stars on it, coincide with a constellation in the sky on December 12th, 1531, when this occurred. All who have scientifically examined the image of Our Lady over the centuries confess that its properties are absolutely unique and so inexplicable in human terms that the image can only be supernatural. Let me go on. I mean, if you wanted one case that proves the fact that this stuff is not only real, but supernatural. Okay, so this goes on.
Yeah, but I mean, the bomb should have incinerated that whole thing.
Nitric acid was accidentally spilled on the left side of the image, which should have destroyed it.
Yeah.
It did no significant damage.
Okay.
It was barely even noticeable that any acid had been spilled on it. Okay. Now, as you look at it, Mary assumes a different ethnicity depending on the vantage point and who's looking at it. It's like her skin tones, her appearance seems to change according to the ethnicity of the person who's looking at it. Okay, now, this stuff goes on and on and on. The image is always 98.6 degrees, the temperature of the human body. No matter what the temperature is surrounding it, the image, the cloak, the tilma, remains 98.6. Okay, so there's and again you can see down at this bottom right, you can see the devout, coming literally by the millions to pay their honor to this extraordinary event, the Lady of Guadalupe in 1531. I mean, there's no question that this was a supernatural event. And again, one that lots of people know about the Lady of Fatima, but not a lot of people really know the details about how extraordinary, particularly with the eyes. And they say that there is no brush small to this day with a laser. You could not put the eyes that small. And again, in both eyes, in just exactly the right way, just the right reflection. It would be impossible today to duplicate of what happened there. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Our Lady of Fatima.
Okay, this is the big one. This is the big one.
This is a big one. This is a big one. Okay, so on October 13th, 1917, a large crowd gathered to witness a promised miracle. Now, again, the lady, the apparition, she had appeared 6 times before on the 13th of each month, and she promised the 3 little kids. I can't even remember their names. Anyway, who were 9, was it 6, 7, and 9? That she would appear and do something spectacular on October 13th, 1917. Now, again, she 5 times before she had appeared. So this was going to be the big one. So the word went out, and a large crowd gathered to witness the promised miracle. Despite heavy rain, the sun appeared to dance in the sky, changing colors and zigzagging, which many interpreted as signs of divine intervention. Okay. This event is known as the miracle of the sun. The apparitions were officially recognized by the Catholic Church in 1930, and of course the messages of I would say the prophecies of the Lady of Fatima continued to inspire millions, emphasizing the importance of prayer, particularly the Rosary and a call to peace on the world, on the peace in the world. So now there are these three secrets that she gave, but I'm not really even going to go in there
Mm-hmm.
that much because that could be a whole, there's much, that could be a whole presentation in
Yeah,
itself. But
exactly.
I'm going to give you a few of the things that were revealed to
Mm-hmm.
these three children. Okay. Uh, let's see. Let's stay here. I'll just stay here. Now, first of all, I mean, again, remember, these children who were poor, illiterate little kids who probably had never been more than a mile away as
Mm-hmm.
far as the sheep were from the house where they were born.
Yeah.
I mean, these kids were as innocent as any human beings on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to these children, she gave a vision of hell with warnings about the consequences of sin and the need for repentance.
Okay.
The prophecy of World War II, a prediction of world conflicts if humanity did not turn back to God. And of course, she gave a final secret that apparently involved the vision of a bishop in white, interpreted as the Pope, who would suffer for the faith. But I mean, that's you can't even really go there. But the
Okay.
main themes are prayer and sacrifice. Mary emphasized the importance of praying the rosary every day for world peace and a conversion of sinners, and the consecration of Russia. She was really into Russia. I
Okay.
mean, of course, it was. I mean, really, she did not like Russia.
Oh,
She
okay.
warned that Russia would spread great evils unless it was consecrated with her into to her immaculate heart. But all of this stuff, there are so many of these things where it's pray, 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 but pray to what? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is a child doing its bedside prayers before before he goes to bed, or great leaders? You have to ask what why was she giving visions of hell and basically world wars to these children? And then of course, then they go and report it to the priest, who reports it to the bishop and all others. But why do they keep coming to these little children to
Mm-hmm.
convey these messages?
But
And
you
what is
but you know what
Okay,
though,
and
that
so
makes sense though, because whereas children are a bit more innocent and are just sort of going to relay it properly, adults, sometimes their ego gets in the way. They want to make a bit of profit on the side, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I mean,
yeah,
like,
but at the
I'm
same
going to trust
time, when it
children.
goes through, if it's goes through the church or the bishop or whatever,
Yeah.
and then it gets filtered there, and which in many cases has been really bad.
Okay.
I mean, these kids were in jail. These kids were interrogated. The church wanted nothing to do with this.
Oh wow.
I mean,
Okay.
they wanted nothing to do with this.
Okay.
So in a lot of ways, yeah, you gotta wonder,
Okay.
why innocent little illiterate children who are giving these messages that they have to give to pass on in absolutely accurate form.
Mm-hmm. But
Hang on.
just wanted to just sort of touch upon the
Mhm.
miracle of the sun, and
Mhm.
that when it was looked at, it was seen as a disc.
Well, I'm getting to that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm getting to
Yeah.
that. Okay. So they were given visions of hell. The children were shown visions of hell, highlighting the need for prayer and preparation for sinners. And again, she talks about sinners. What are you talking about? I mean, all this stuff about sin. Well, what sin are you talking about? Not saying your prayers before bedtime or massacring a million people. I mean, there's
Yeah.
all these sort of like open, like meaningless phrases.
Okay.
Pray, pray, pray. Well, pray for what?
Mm-hmm.
Repent your sins. Well, what sins are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like these are empty. It's almost like she's giving out the verbiage
Mm-hmm. But it's
and
not
letting people
clear.
interpret it on, assume the interpretation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
but that's often the
Mhm.
complaint that people have when there's these sort of miraculous things, is that it's never clear. It's always very nebulous and kind of like, well, kind of out there.
That's right. That's
It just
right.
be nice
That's
if it
right.
would be clear.
So anyway, she assured the children that their vision of hell was everything they were experiencing in this vision of hell was very real, and which meant that the children themselves were. I mean, they were traumatized by all of this. So then you have the miracle of the sun, October 13th. 70,000 people gathered to witness the promised miracle. Despite heavy rain, the sun. Okay, we've already been there. Okay, so in a nutshell, let's see here.
So where are we at now?
So we're right here. So the I think one of the things that are so extraordinary. First of all, you can see that 470,000 people showed up this past, I think it was May 2025, when Pope Leo the 14th consecrated Our Lady of Fatima at the shrine. I mean, this brings, and then you have to wonder about the energy, the emotional charge that comes with that. But what's really interesting is that I find really interesting, yeah, many of the witnesses who saw the sun like this said what many people saw were, again, shiny discs. And that, some people, I think, were bedazzled by the display. Others were actually seeing silver discs dancing around in the sky. And then when the three young, in fact, the little boy never saw the apparition, only the two girls. And for the most part, what they saw was not clear. But you can see on the far left bottom is how the church basically hijacked the image and portrayed it. What the kids saw was something, what they described was very different. They saw this little person that's maybe 3.5 feet tall, who was wearing basically local peasant cloth, garbs. And at that time, any woman wearing anything but a long skirt would have been absolutely scandalous.
Yeah.
And yet, this is, and in the middle here is a rendition, a painted rendition of what the children actually saw, which you can see is totally different from the angelic figure that you see, which is the official figure, basically the image that has been portrayed by the
hijacked,
yeah,
basically. Yeah.
And then one of the interesting things too that gets brought out about the anomalousness of this phenomena is that the there were like two suns dancing in the sky. The sky darkened. It was so dark that that people could see stars in the sky, and then it brightened up again. Of course, the rain stopped. The sun came out. All of the people and the ground completely dried. I mean, the ground went to being from like knee deep in mud to basically dust. All the clothing was dried. The sun then again was zigzagging across the sky. But I think one of the telling things is that they at one point the sky darkened enough where the stars came out. Now, again, this was seen as far as like 12 miles away, which shows this was not mass hallucination. But at the same time, people 50 miles away were not seeing the sky darkened. They were not seeing any of this. So clearly, it couldn't have been the sun that was doing all of this. It was something that was localized to that spot.
But I mean,
get out of like that 12-mile radius, and everything was normal.
But you know what though? But isn't there an issue with the whole idea of mass hallucination? I don't buy that. I'm sorry. And also the fact that there's an emphasis on silver disc.
Case suggests a UFO event. But again,
but silver discs.
Mm-hmm.
But silver disc. I mean,
silver
what
disc.
more?
Mm-hmm.
What more do you want? Right? Like
that's right.
I don't know.
And not only that, but the one of the remarkable things is that even though the road leading to this site in Portugal, I mean, it was like a 1-lane goat path, so that to have 70,000 people trek there, I mean, that was a major deal. But there were also a number of vehicles that had managed to, I mean, I suspect it was through mud ruts, and it had rained, so it would
maybe
have been
horses.
But on a number of occasions, the cars melted, the windshields cracked, the gas tanks blew up. It was like the cars were getting some kind of like microwave energy blasts that were causing them literally to either melt or even in some cases to explode.
But you know what though? You know what that sounds like though? You ever notice how some people who see and look, take it as you will, but some people who have like, UFO experiences and it comes close to the car and their car, there's not a lot of static and there's spots on the car and the paint on the car is like wrecked and stuff is cracked. So, I mean, spot the difference. I don't know.
Okay. So among the things that came out of this sighting in 1917, predictions about World War II and the dangers of communism. A vision concerning the suffering of the church revealed that would happen in after 2000, which I think we can kind of see happening right now. That luminous oval objects that flew smoothly and fast were seen by some observers. Flying hats, flying crosses, a lot of things that people saw that they could not understand. And a noticeable increase and decrease of sunlight. And one witness, who was a medical doctor, said it was a strange sun, flat with well-defined boundaries. It looked like a dull silver disc.
Oh, there we go with
And
the silver disc.
Another one who was a lawyer, and these both came as as skeptics to it. Okay. And this other one, it started turning sharply on itself. Its edges became scarlet and slid into a whirlwind, spreading flames of fire, gushing cascades of green lights, red, blue, and violet in various shades, which were reflected onto the soil, trees, bushes, and clothes. So it's like, this, you just have to leave it right now as what it is until we can further examine this as basically as a UFO event.
Yeah,
which it clearly is.
It clearly is.
That is for the next presentation.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, when you have, look, I'm not saying that only doctors and lawyers can have an authority on it. But I mean, if they came as skeptics, and they're people who, compared to the people around,
a number of people who came as skeptics.
Exactly. But compared to the rest of the people around, they came because who are illiterate,
because they were not seeing it through the veil of the Christian dogma.
Exactly.
So many of these people saw the Virgin Mary because they expected to see the Virgin Mary.
Fair enough. But when these same people who are not under the veil and who are completely clear-eyed and are coming there and are seeing a disc, that stands out for me. Everything else is kind of nice, but when you have this thing turned into a disc and flying around,
we can't have this last forever.
No.
So and then we have the really important thing about this case, the Lady of Fatima, and it also pertains to other cases like the case of the Lady of Benang and the case of Bano, who were in I think the 1930s in Belgium. Okay. The impact that they have on the cultural, social, political impact. Mm-hmm. Portugal, after hundreds of years basically of church oppression, were finally getting out from under church oppression, and people flocked back to the church.
Okay.
Turning it back again. And it was the same thing with Belgium. It had the profound effect of bringing people back into the fold, who were finally, after hundreds of years, going away from it.
Okay.
So
interesting.
It's an impact that it's an impact that lasts to this day. Mm-hmm. So I think what people aren't really looking at that I found more intriguing, and this goes across the board, they almost all had some kind of lasting impact that impacts our lives to this day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Which changes history. Yeah.
Which changes history. That's right. So here you have one, and again, I showed this in the previous presentation I did.
Yeah, I remember.
It's called the Miracle of the Vistula. Mm-hmm. And this one is really important because it shows how these apparitions basically guide history. This was she is known, she's known as the Lady of Czechowa. I can't pronounce it, the Polish name correctly, but she has been venerated for hundreds of years, referred to as the Black Madonna. I mean, the Black Madonna.
Okay.
And she has intervened for the Polish people in the past. So in 1920, after the Bolsheviks take over Russia, and Lenin puts together a Red Army of over 100,000 troops with the intention of invading Europe in process of converting the world to communism. And of course, their first place of attack is Poland. So the Poles They can see this all coming. Their army is basically made up of like Boy Scouts. I mean, this is 1920 is just right after World War II. I mean, World War One, and the country has been decimated. They have no army. Boy Scouts and old men, basically.
Okay.
And they know that this is coming. They're going to be crucified. They're going to be massacred.
Mm-hmm.
They go to Britain, other countries, and for the most part, oddly enough, a lot of countries like Britain really had, they had an affiliation with communist Russia. They told the Poles, to surrender and hope for mercy.
Okay. Wow.
Would have nothing to do with coming to protect them.
Okay.
So the Poles were left to themselves. So it's like the night before the invasion, the 100,000 troops come across the Vistula and into Warsaw. It's like everybody led by, there was one particular priest that led it, but it's like everybody in Poland got down and prayed for the intervention of the Black Madonna. And the next day, what you have here is that as the troops came in, the 100,000 Russian who were in a fever, basically to use Poland as the first jumping off place to convert the rest of the world to communism. Okay, so the lady shows up on a dark cloud above the Polish troops. They can't see her, but the Red Army can. She's on this black cloud with a sword and shield with her celestial army. The Red Army, and remember that Russia had been, Russian Orthodox for 300 years before that. So, they basically were Catholic. So they turned around basically to a man and ran because they said that they would fight the Poles, but they would not fight the mother.
Okay. Now, isn't it
she completely changed the course of history by appearing over with her celestial army, appearing over Warsaw and basically scaring the red troops back to Russia.
Okay. Isn't it kind of just weird? I mean, I don't know if I'm just sort of making too much of it, but the Black Madonna is wearing a blue cloak and she doesn't look very black.
Well, the thing is that one of the reasons that is suggested is that because the statue of the Black Madonna, which is in a monastery in this Chihuahua, whatever, I can't pronounce it correctly.
Vistula?
It's that she may have a black visage because of all of the candles and the soot.
Oh, okay.
The soot from the candles that have been burned at the base of this statue for hundreds of years.
Oh, okay.
So it is unknown whether it's her actual black complexion or it's been darkened from soot from candles.
Oh, okay.
So
fair enough.
Anyway, so this is an example. We are not communists today, not because the Americans won the Cold War. It's because she appeared in 1920 over Warsaw and scared the fuckers back. And in this one before, you can see...
To put it bluntly.
This is a newspaper report. Russian armies in Poland meet disaster. 75,000 prisoners taken. I mean, they were a mess. They just ran. They threw their guns down and ran. They were hiding in chicken coops. They were hiding under haystacks. And when journalists afterwards asked, well, why did you run? I mean, to a man, they would say, because, we will fight the Poles. We will not fight the mother.
Oh, boy.
So this is one example, an incredible example how within recent memory, the lady changed history, impacted history. And this is simply another version of it. And yet another one, this is one no one ever hears about. Okay. In his darkest day in Valley Forge, in 1779, basically the American, the American army, I'm not sure what you would call them, they're troops, were, beaten down. They had no weapons. They had no clothes. They were, they were, basically wrapping their feet in rags, their bloody feet in rags. They were, basically, George Washington saw defeat. He could not put his troops through anything more horrors because he believed that the war basically had been lost. Yeah. Well, he was in his tent, and a vision came to him. And first it was Saint Michael who came who basically, and again, this is one of those instances in which Saint Michael appeared before the lady appears, but she, and this is and this is a rendition of an accounting of this incident that George Washington allegedly gave to one of his officers. That was then printed and has reprinted and reprinted in what was originally the National Tribune, which is now Stars and Stripes, the official veterans newspaper. So again, it was, she came to him and basically inspired him to go on.
Yeah.
So again, this is another instance in which she changed a Marian apparition. And it's interesting that the way the artist, going from his description, George Washington's description of this beautiful young woman, matches Chris Bledsoe's Lady in White almost to a T.
Yeah.
But this is another instance in which these Marian apparitions are basically guiding history. We are here today because she inspired George Washington to continue on.
Exactly.
Despite the adversities.
Exactly. No, and okay. It must be, it has to be clear at this point that somebody somewhere is doing this because they want planet Earth and planet history to go in a particular direction.
That's right.
You know, and so they're looking at time. You know, you have to look at the time travel aspect of it as well.
This is being, we don't know whether this is for our benefit or not. You know, who knows?
No, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. We don't know. But I'm just saying.
Something is guiding humanity's destiny.
Yeah.
And we don't know the agenda.
Exactly.
The ultimate agenda.
Fair enough.
Okay. I'm going to have to end this soon. So anyway, these are some of the images. These are, they should have gone earlier, but these are some of kind of like the images those little children at Fatima were given. Mm-hmm. You know, the hell and damnation.
Yeah.
And then what I find really interesting too, and then one of your viewers had asked originally about the Lady of Garambo.
Garambo.
The thing is, I think the reason I put this here is that you have one of the approved apparitions is the Our Lady of Akita in Japan, 1971. And I didn't put an image of that in.
Okay.
Messages of hell and damnation. Again, it's in fact, even with the Lady of Fatua,
Garabando.
No. That's, I have my guest here.
Okay.
Yeah, pull. It's hard. I'm on Zoom, so come right on in and walk in, and I'll be done in a minute. Okay. So, like with Fatima and so many of the others, she gives the Lady of Akita gives all these messages of hell and damnation, and it's I have, and in fact I even have it say with the Lady of Akita. I mean, it's absolutely horrible. The Lady of
Garabando, I think.
Again, Garabando, and again. Like a great chastisement. Oh, this is the Lady of Akita. A great chastisement will fall on the entire human race. Not today, not yet, not tomorrow, but in the second half of the 20th century. No longer does order reign anywhere, but Satan will reign over the highest places, directing the course of events. But anyway, it's all hell and damnation. Okay. And this is from Our Lady of Garabando in Spain, 1961. Mm-hmm. And again, she's telling 4 little girls between the ages of 11 and 12 when they saw a vision of rivers turning into blood, fire falling from the sky. And she goes on to say, this stuff is really horrible.
Yeah.
At a certain moment, no machine, no engine will work. A terrible wave of heat will fall upon the earth, and men will begin to endure a great thirst. Desperately, they will search for water, but it will evaporate due to the heat. Despair will seize upon everyone. People will try to kill one another, but they will lack the strength and fall. It goes on and on and on. But one of the things that I found really disturbing about so many of these one of the common themes with many of these apparitions were basically giving the seers, often these very young children, these horrific visions of basically Armageddon.
Okay.
I just found it very, very disturbing. So so back to where I began. So, I take some comfort in that the lady told Chris Bledsoe, that 2026, the divine feminine will return and women will arise. So I'm hoping that's at least some positive message out of all of these. So, okay. Now this, I want to sort of like wrap up this whole thing.
Sure.
Jacques Vallée, who is he's a renowned astronomer, computer science, and famous ufologist. He goes back all the way back to the 50s. Stated in his 1975 book, The Invisible College, he called the Marian Apparition phenomena the physics of the Blessed Virgin Mary. He quotes, "We are faced with a technology that transcends the physical and is capable of manipulating our reality, generating a variety of altered states of consciousness and emotional perceptions. The Blessed Virgin Mary may dress in golden robes and smile radiantly to the children, but the technology she uses is indistinguishable from that of the gods and goddesses of other tongues and garbs, and it also is indistinguishable from the phenomena surrounding the UFO phenomena." And more recently, he stated in 2015, "For the first time, I have a sense of foreboding. Given the growth of disinformation, the interference isn't coming from a small deluded group or isolated bureaucrats, but in fact, it's massive and well managed." And you look, in this parting image of the Blessed Virgin Mary, you think about humble Mary. Here, this lady is resplendent, in her silken robes with her gold crown. I mean, this is no way to portray the humble Virgin Mary. And what I find even more fascinating is that she has a crucifix with the a crucifix of Jesus on the cross.
Okay.
Why would you use the crucifixion of your son as jewelry? There's something really about this.
It's food for thought, right?
And she never, all of these depictions of her just like this. And this is the predominant way in which she's depicted. She apparently likes it. She apparently likes all these shrines being named after her. It's like she, when she said, you go through me. I am the one you go through. And there's something really, I find deeply.
But I mean, you brought up a good point, though. You brought up a good point. Why would you want to have jewelry with the cross in which your son was crucified? That's a very interesting thought. No?
Yeah. So anyway, and in fact, why would you want like a gold crown? And just be decked, and that is not that is totally inappropriate for a true appearance of the Blessed Virgin Mary, who must have been one of the humblest human beings ever to have lived on earth.
Okay. So are we sort of closing this off by saying that?
Yeah, we are basically closing it off. So
no. What I meant to say is that are we going, not closing off the presentation, but are we?
No, I'm closing off the presentation. Oh. I would love to have people, have their questions, ask questions, because again, this is something I have been. This has bedeviled me for the last at least 3 months when I started working on this.
I know it's late.
Idea. When I started this, I had no idea I was going to go down the rabbit hole.
But I know it's late, but I'd like to sort of go over some comments that people have made, if that's okay, because I think it still needs to be heard. I have Sita Singh here who said, because at one point you and I were talking about why Mary chose herself and not God, and and all that. And I think at the time she said it's not the literal in her name where her presence is. He I think it's what she meant to say is that he has power in healing. And I think I have here Jesus is King says it's because God is with her. And it's not her doing this, it's them together. So that's a very interesting point as well, that it's if Mary's asking to do this, it's because she represents.
She often says in these various apparitions, these messages, you go through me.
Yeah.
She doesn't mention Jesus. You go through me.
Yeah.
And then having all of these shrines, I mean, to a shrine, and again, there are thousands of them. They're all named after her.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's and what I find interesting too is that in a couple of her appearances, she calls herself the Redemptrix, which means she, along with Jesus, can redeem people.
Mm-hmm.
And she has been referred for, I don't know for how long, in the Vatican as the co-redemptrix,
Okay.
which means she, along with Jesus, can redeem people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about a week ago, Pope Leo the 14th came out and took that away. She says she is not the co-redemptrix. She is Jesus's mother, basically reduced her back to a womb. And basically his words was she was getting too big for her britches.
Okay, well, you know,
So,
get ready for the
that's
sacred
just been like the
feminine.
last
Get
week.
ready.
So she is no longer, and a couple of times she has called herself the
Okay.
Redemptrix.
Okay.
So, and yet Pope Leo, and I think this is one of those cases when he's absolutely right. Something basically was giving the importance to themselves and taking it away, possibly from Jesus or God or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
may have misinterpreted that, but boy, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the hell
absolutely.
this co-redemptrix was and why
Yeah.
he would be. At first, I thought it was kind of an insult. Then I realized that when he said that, too much importance was being put on her rather than Jesus and his message,
Okay.
he absolutely nailed it.
Okay. That's kind of interesting. You know, I have a comment here, and I think it sort of relates back to what we were talking about in terms of like why, you know, certain things are happening we don't understand. And I have here Jesus as King says, that's the one of God's mysteries we weren't supposed to fully know. And I mean that's fine if that's sort of where you want to go with that. And I mean,
Yeah,
again, no
yeah,
judgment.
yeah.
However, I think that there's
You,
certain things.
if it makes it easier for you, you can go there. But I
Okay.
think if you start looking, in particular, if you start looking, and I've probably looked at least 30 of these.
Okay.
I mean, just as a starter. And let's see. I mean, I have. Oh, let's see here. Alien goddess, UFOs, aliens, sightings, and
Can you
Marian
show us the book
Apparitions.
cover in case people are interested?
Oh, this is a really great one. This is from Ingo Swan.
Okay.
It's the Great Apparitions of Mary, examination of 22 supernormal appearances.
By Ingo Swan.
Ingo
Oh,
Swan, who was one of the
wow.
founders of the Stargate remote
Remote
viewing
viewing.
program.
Yeah, we did a presentation. We had Angela come in and do a presentation about that a couple of weeks ago. It was
Yeah,
excellent.
this is kind of like the primer.
Oh, okay.
So that would be one, and then another UFOs and alien contacts in Christian history. I mean, this would be like another one.
And who's the
Kind
author?
of, the author is Cesar Valacu. And I can send those to you.
Yeah, if you could just show us just the bottom of the book so we can just see the bottom of the author. Oh, okay. Okay, there you go. Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. And this other one on UFOs is also his book.
Okay.
And there's another one here called Alien Goddesses, which is, I mean, again, looking at this whole phenomenon from an alternative perspective. Excellent,
Okay.
excellent book. And then, of course, I've got books like, I mean, oh God, you can't believe all my Amazon.
You always do such a thorough
I have
job.
books like this. Yeah. So, and then, of course, I've got, so it's, I think the more you kind of look into it,
Yeah.
and not just at 2 or 3 cases, but when you start looking at 30,
Mm-hmm.
let alone some of these. Oh, here, anyway, I won't go there.
Okay.
In some of these cases, if you went over 400 of them,
Mm-hmm.
the 400 that the Vatican has examined,
Okay.
is investigating or not, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think you see these certain patterns, these very distinctive patterns that I think more and more put together a very, how would you say, it's almost like an agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, you're getting kind of the same messages, the same warnings, and in some cases, like, there's some cases, and again, when she says, pray, 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 pray what?
Yeah.
Repent your sins. Well, what sins are
Well,
you?
it's nebulous.
So much of her messages are basically gibberish.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. So if you had to sort of seal this with a bow, if after reading all these books and doing the research you've done, and I have to say, and even people in the comments are saying you did a thorough, bang up job. You did so much information. Now, pulling
This is
out
just the
from
beginning.
that, I know, but pulling out from that, okay, what if you had to sort of just say, look, give me a closing 3-4 lines. Where does this now, compared to when you first started, how are you now looking at the Virgin Mary, the BVMs? How are you looking at this? Are you looking at now from a fully alien perspective? And we're gonna cover the Hathor a little later on. But like, where are you now? Like, what is your final analysis
again,
of this whole situation?
I would have excuse me, 6 months ago,
Okay.
when I did the original presentation on the Chris Bledsoe story,
Yeah.
with his Lady in White,
Yeah.
I looked at this totally in a positive light.
Okay.
Totally, it's just, we have nothing to worry about. She's going to come to rescue us. It was just, it was a totally positive. The more I got into this and realized the similarities with Chris Bledsoe's Hathor, anyway, his Lady in White, with all these others, I begin to see this pattern of, again, it seems as though there is this force. Celestial, God knows what it is. Ultra-terrestrial, interterrestrial, whatever it is, there is
interdimensional.
Interdimensional, however it is, there is something out there that is basically shaping our destiny.
Yes, absolutely.
And we have no idea, again, whether it's to our benefit or theirs.
Exactly.
Using an example of their benefit or theirs, when you have these shrines, and you have like 20 million people coming to the Lady of Guadalupe, you have to wonder, is there something about, again, a specific site? She went to in a specific site, no matter how outrageous it is.
I wonder if it's on a ley line. Who knows?
Or is there a geomagnetic anomaly there?
Ley lines or whatever.
And you have to think, if you get millions of people to come in to one place, and they're all emotionally charged. It's, and granted, some of them are going to be healed one way or the other, but primarily is somebody else harvesting this energy, this emotion. When they come in, they are emotionally charged.
Exactly. But that's the thing.
And you have to wonder, with her insistence that a chapel or shrine be built, and then the millions come, is there a reason for it?
Absolutely.
And to whose benefit? Is there an ulterior motive to her insistence, her demands that these shrines be built? But that's where I have gone. I no longer am confident that whatever is happening is to our benefit.
Okay, but you know what though, and that's fair enough that you can sort of say that. And again, I just want to sort of make it very clear to the audience: we are in no way Bible bashing or God bashing. That's nothing to do with that at all. It has nothing to do with that. In fact, I think that it's the faith that is being taken by whatever force is out there and masquerading as the Virgin Mary, masquerading and taking it for themselves so they can manipulate. And we do hear of some negative forces that are using loosh, who are using negative energy.
That's I even have stuff on
that are using the negativity and the suffering to feed off of that.
Then is harvested.
It's harvested. So
now, if we can get back to the Vatican, actually, the Church has not liked this phenomenon from the beginning. They have one,
I can't blame them.
Not at all. And I think because I suspect they understand there's something suspicious.
Exactly.
I think they have had to embrace it, because otherwise you have the grassroots devout. Like in some of these cases, like Bayside Queens, they will go regardless. The only way that you can control the narrative is to control the whole story. By accept this, because otherwise again, the grassroots devout will run on their own and take the Catholic story in ways that may be totally away from the central authority or whatever.
But
so,
you know what?
I think the Catholic Church has been very, very wary.
Yes.
From the beginning of this phenomenon.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought up Ingo Swann, because a couple of weeks ago, Angela Levasseur did a presentation on remote viewing. We talked about it. We talked about Ingo Swann, and we talked about Pat Price. And Pat Price is one of the more best, remote viewers. And one of the things that he was saying, because I'd also done some research on it as well, is that he said that there were different alien bases throughout the world, and that in some of these alien bases, they were there using all this machinery to manipulate the weather on this planet, and to and it wasn't very clear, because what he was seeing wasn't clear, but it seems that these and it seems, from based on what he was saying, is that they didn't care what was happening on the planet. They're here for what they want.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And so
that's right.
And I'm not sort of trying to pull things together, but I'm saying if there's a force or a group that are here on this planet and are taking the faith that we have, a real Jesus and a real Mary, and are using that to their advantage in order
co-opting
to co-opt it.
I'm beginning to think the Marian Apparitions,
and again, this is not the bashing.
Maybe a co-option,
exactly,
of a genuine, a phenomenon,
exactly, and they're using the faith, which is real. They're using Jesus, who was real. They're using Mary, who was real. They're using that for their own ends,
it for their own purposes.
Exactly, to drive us in a certain direction, and to maybe cause, because Pat Price was saying, look, there are one or two these alien bases which are okay, but there are other ones, especially the one in Alaska, that was very negative and very evil, and the one in Australia was also very negative and evil. And I said, we don't care about you humans. You guys can go off and kill yourself, but we want this planet, and we're here to harvest energy, and we're here to do this, we're here to do that. So we don't know. Maybe they're the ones who are using and masquerading, putting a mask and going around.
We have no idea.
We have no idea. So for me, that's where the fork is in the middle of the road, because we don't know really who's doing what. Is it because I don't think it's really. Like I said, Jesus was real, Mary was real, and they had a faith, and he brought a faith with him. But I think there is somebody else somewhere who is extraterrestrial, who's using that story to manipulate. That I have to leave it there.
And you have to think too, because they almost 100% of the, until Chris Bledsoe recently, it has all been steering people back to the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder, are the Catholics somehow the chosen people, or are they the ones who they have most under control?
Okay.
Because of their already pre-existing adoration of Mary, is this a way that they can tap into a pre-existing phenomenon and take advantage of it?
Yeah, use it as a vehicle to get what they want.
They don't go to the Protestants because the Protestants see Mary as a womb.
Exactly.
Marian, except to Chris Bledsoe, they're not going to resonate.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to resonate, probably with the Muslims or the Hindus.
Exactly,
or whatever,
because they don't have that same kind of.
So you have to wonder, are they the Catholics the chosen ones, or are they being used?
Yeah, and I think honestly, after this presentation that you've put together, which is phenomenal, by the way, I think, look, we don't have the definitive answer. However, if I had to sort of sit and say, based on your research and based on even on my own suspicions and my own Catholic Christian upbringings, I brought up Protestant or Seventh-day Adventist for that matter. I have to say that there's definitely a lot more going on here than meets the eye.
Yes.
And also based on my own research in terms of the alien presence on this planet and what I've learned. And even up until recently, until Angela's presentation on remote viewing, in which I looked more deeply into it because I was interested when she did her presentation. The stuff that I found out, I said, oh, God.
That's right.
There's something going on. Anyway, it's getting late. I wanted to just say thank you.
If you guys
much.
Are interested, knowing that the lady is supposed to return, the new knowledge and return of the divine feminine is supposed to happen around the equinox 2026, which is what?
April 2026?
March 20th.
March 20th.
Yeah, so we have
2026.
Basically we have December, January, February. We only have 3 months before
Okay, well, we're
D-Day.
gonna have to bring you back.
So
We'll have to bring you back.
if you're interested, I'll try to put something together in anticipation of the big event.
Absolutely. We're going to do a discussion group. That's what we're going to do.
A discussion group would be fantastic.
Exactly. That would be
It takes
perfect.
pressure off me.
Okay, perfect. So I wanted to say thank you so much.
This has been a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to have you because you always bring the best and you have the best information and you and I are sort of like, arguing back and forth and like it's always so good. It's always high energy. So I honestly love
off
it.
Of each other.
I know.
We're building on each other.
We're building on each other. We're bouncing off each other. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's always like high octane. I love it. So we're going to have you back.
I spend a lot of time researching this stuff. But what do? Do I keep it between my ears or do I share it?
You share it.
I think it's imperative to share it because otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
you guys out there, I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate having somebody to listen to the other than my poor sister. My poor sister. She is every time she picks up the phone is that she knows she's got to get another earful.
Oh God.
Because I don't, because I've got this information. Who do I talk to?
Exactly.
So
well, you talk to us.
Guys.
You talk to us. So we're going to definitely have you back, Maurene. We're going to definitely have to follow up on the Hathor aspect with Chris Bledsoe. That is a definite must. And we'll do a discussion group later on this sort of topic.
I think a discussion group on it would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think the discussion would be a great idea. Yeah. So we'll have you back for that. So I want to say thank you to everybody. I know it's late, but I want to just say thank you. And to all our American viewers, happy Thanksgiving. I know there's Thanksgiving coming up. So wishing you all the best for you and your family. And wishing you a safe and happy holiday. I want to say thank you again to Maurene for coming in and giving us a phenomenal, super blast presentation. Thank you so much, Maurene. And we're going to have you back again for sure. And definitely discussion group. And I want to say to everybody, I know I touched upon it earlier, but I know some people were complaining and saying that they weren't able to see the comments in the chat. And I just wanted to say that I spoke with my technician and you have to, if you want to see the chat, you have to do it on a laptop or a desktop. You cannot do it on your phone, unfortunately. So that's how YouTube works. And so if you want to go back and look at some of the chat and some of the information, you have to do it on a desktop computer. Yeah. But I wanted to say thank you to everyone.
And I've left my information up there. Please, if you want to, I would love to get a dialogue going with people who are interested in this topic. Just contact olympic.ufo@gmail.com. And by the way, I just want to add a little thing. I mean, this is a weird little thing. Mm-hmm. I have a very unusual spelling in my first name.
Yeah.
I used to think that my mother misspelled it. But, I was looking up Maurene online, and it's like, it's not within with that spelling.
Yeah.
It's not like in the first 4,000 common girls' names.
Okay.
But anyway, from what I got, it's like it's a derivation of Mary, Star of the Sea.
Oh.
It's almost like it was my destiny.
There you go.
There's a reason why I'm doing this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we'll have you back again. Okay. And I want to say thank you again, Maurene. Mwah, you're always the best. You're the best.
Thank you.
I want to say, thank you so much.
Now I can get back to my house guest.
There you go. And have a good Thanksgiving dinner.
All the things for Thanksgiving that I put off.
Exactly. And so Thanksgiving, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I want to say thank you so much for being a part of us. Make sure to come back tomorrow for our discussion group with Karen Holton. And I wanted to just say thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us, guys. Please like and subscribe. And we will see you tomorrow for the discussion group. And we will see you next week for a new presentation. Okay.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Good night to you.